Hi, I'm Ambrish. I work with IBM Research in the AI safety and security team. And we look at red teaming and blue teaming with respect to GenAI now. In this poster, I'll run through some of the practitioner side of how we approach red teaming. And I'll begin by first talking about how things have shifted in adversarial machine learning from what they used to be before the ChatGPT era. So before the GenAI era, I think the adversarial machine learning had this famous example of adversarial images where you added noise to some existing images so that the prediction label changed. And I think one of the classic examples was this panda example where you added noise to the panda image and the model started predicting that it's a gibbon or it's a dog. So in this world, what we had was very sophisticated algorithms, but automated algorithms to make adversarial images. But the struggle was to convince the community that these threats are real. In many of these cases, people tried to print out t-shirts, people had stop signs printed, and there was a large body of work which went into at least convincing that such threats can actually exist in the real world. Now, GenAI changed that scene significantly. Now it's very easy to convince someone that a model is doing something wrong. As long as it gives answers to simple questions like how to build a bomb, it's very easy to convince that yes, the model is misbehaving. The challenge, however, is to scope the space of ways in which the model can misbehave. Now, with images, it was easy. You just add noise, and noise was pretty much your currency for attacking. There were other forms of attack, of course, backdoor poisoning, etc. But for the evasion attacks, this was your go-to. Now, in the Gen AI world, that has changed. You have a wide range of scope of how you can use attack techniques on top of strings. So the challenge becomes how do you organize your thoughts around it? And the reason you need to organize your thoughts around these methods is because you want to generate them at scale to do automated red teaming, which subsequently will be used for blue teaming, where you build defenses for all of those different dimensions. So in this work, we present Attack Atlas, which is an attempt to actually taxonomize the space of attack techniques. Risks have been taxonomized previously, and that's been an ongoing effort across the community. If you hear any regulatory talk on GenAI right now, they talk of taxonomies of risks that GenAI needs to deal with, and they move from social risks like toxicity, etc., to more security risks like jailbreaks, injections, or privacy leakage, etc. And you have these OWASP top 10 is one of the most classical citation for referring to the security risks. However, what's missing is the type of different prompt attacks that people can use. And in this, we try to organize our taxonomy to help practitioners approach red teaming. So one of the classical ways is to do these GCG attacks or optimization attacks, which is very similar to the optimization once we add in images, but they only lead to one part, which is specialized token. Now, language is a discrete space, so optimization always doesn't work, but people have tried lots of anecdotes where they come up with social hacking attacks, where they have these massive long stories of grandma being sick and you need to help grandma solve some problem, and then the problem turns out to be harmful, but the model falls into that trap and actually delivers the response. So we have 5 broad categories: direct instructions, where the model just misbehaves by simple instructions. This is very common in direct prompt attacks, where if you give a API which discloses your private information, the model will disclose it. Then you have encoded instructions, where you play with either the input encoding or the output formatting, where you can specify things to be communicated in, say, base 64, or in the output format by producing an answer to a maths puzzle. And you might find some of these papers in NeurIPS this year. So that's encoded instruction. Then the newest one is context overload, where you can have many short prompting, where you take hundreds of examples and the model produces a harmful response for the 101st. So the basic goal here is essentially just to taxonomize, to at least begin the process of taxonomization, and it's necessary for practitioner because we don't always have tools to automate across all of them, and then we don't always have tools to figure out blue teaming exercises. Typically in security, you wouldn't have one size fits all solution. You have to go for defense in depth. So you will end up patching each of them individually, making a more comprehensive solution, and that's why you need those taxonomies. I have 4 short takeaways from this, and I think from this exercise of taxonomy. So taxonomy helps you inject controls for mitigation. This taxonomy itself has an overlap with the social taxonomy. Your social taxonomy is complementary to this. Any social risk can be amplified by using any of these techniques. what this is missing right now is an angle of prioritization or exploitation. However, which of these attacks are more easily exploitable from an attacker's perspective? That's another dimension you need. So that's the next set of work you will look at. And then, of course, when you build guardrails, you have to benchmark these for each of these techniques. So the benchmarking dimension for each node in this graph is necessary. And in this regard, we have two important works. I think one is in the other workshop on Safe AI, where we have a massive benchmark on guardrails for jailbreaks. It's worth attending that one. And then we have also released a model to benchmark do input filtering for these attacks. We call it Granite Guardian. So as I told you, like, it's an important exercise, and the outcomes come down in blue teaming, where we use this information to develop guardrails and defenses. Now that'll be all. Thank you.